The FA, Premier League, EFL and PFA have today announced a new joint action plan to better understand, promote and protect brain health. The PFA's Chief Executive, Maheta Malango, outlined the three priorities.
I think we need to make sure that people really understand what the consequences may be of playing the game they love. But we believe that in parallel to that, three things need to happen. The first one is continuing research. And the more we know about CTE and dementia, the better. And that's why I personally committed, alongside the chair of our PFA, to basically donate our brain for research. I think research is paramount to what we're trying to achieve here. The second thing, as we said, is education and awareness. I think we do need to go into the dressing rooms and making sure that everyone is fully aware of some of the dangers linked to heading the ball. And third, and that's where I think the role of the families have been absolutely crucial, is to really understand how can we actually help people who right now are suffering, because I think this is something which it's an evidence. So people right now are suffering, and we need to make sure that we find the right way of supporting the families who right now really need the help of all the stakeholders.
Let's get some more on this. We can speak to Headway's Chief Executive, Luke Griggs, who joins us now. Luke, very good afternoon. So the PFA's Chief Executive is going to donate his brain as part of this initiative. How powerful a message is that?
It's great to see. It's a surprising announcement, but we see more and more, certainly former players, who are putting themselves forward for this. And it can only benefit and strengthen the body of research that continues to emerge in this important field.
What do you make of this collaboration between these football governing bodies?
Long overdue is probably the best way of summing it up, but it's welcome nonetheless. We're talking at the moment with the government, who are looking to put together an acquired brain injury strategy across all government departments, and that cohesive kind of working is really important, and it should be so in all sport, not just individual sport. So yeah, we welcome that kind of concept, that collaboration, to have put forward a cohesive plan for everybody at all levels of all sports.
Now, there was supposed to have been a reduction of heading the ball in training and in grassroots football. Is that the reality? Is that happening?
Well, I mean, all you have to do is you look at the challenges facing and people pushing back against Nuno Espirito Santos when he was Spurs manager, and he said, well, look, it's not happening. I think the reality is he won't have been alone in saying that. These were guidelines put out, but they're not tangible. They're not measured against anything. There's no kind of scrutiny of it. And it's a really difficult thing to police, to manage. And it's only going to happen if we get that understanding, that education. We need to get buy-in at all levels, and that doesn't happen overnight. It needs a cultural revolution. It needs an evolution of attitude in sport towards brain injuries. It's going to take time, but it's going to take a lot more effort and a lot more work and proactivity from all sports to make this happen. It won't just happen by magic, through a few words or a few posters. It's got to be far more in-depth and detailed and strategic approach to this.
And do you actually see that happening?
What we see is a desire for change. We see a commitment to do so. I've had several meetings with the FA recently, and everybody I meet, I've got a genuine desire to improve the situation. But there still needs to be that kind of strategic approach to how it's going to happen. It won't just happen magically. So I think the desire is there, but it needs to translate into real action.
Now, the Premier League has introduced permanent concussion substitutes. Is that the best option?
No, we've been very clear and very vocal on this situation. And I think it was a real missed opportunity when IFAB brought in permanent concussion substitutes. And it sounds kind of strange for us to talk against this. But the reason is, if you're talking about permanent concussion substitutions, you're still giving the medics on the pitch 2 or 3 minutes to assess a player to decide whether or not they should be permanently removed. That doesn't change a thing. You're still asking those medics in that intense battle, in that intense situation, under the watch of 30, 40, 50,000 people, to make that instant decision. Whereas a temporary concussion substitution gives you the opportunity to have the player off the pitch in a quiet dressing room and do a proper assessment there without the watchful gaze in 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes, and give you more of a considered opportunity to make that decision. That's got to happen. It's been a mistake to delay it so long. We welcome the fact that the FA is looking at this and welcome to changing it, looking at ideas how we can extend the trial and change the trial. Hopefully that will include temporary concussion substitutions as soon as possible.
Yeah, indeed. Luke, we've all seen the heartbreak of dementia, and we know that a lot of former players are beginning to suffer. England's 1966 World Cup winning side, for instance, we know some of them have suffered from dementia. Is enough being done for their families, those people being left behind?
Well, I was certainly really pleased to see the support for families to be one of those 3 key priorities that have been set out by this strategy document. The reality is no, they haven't been, and for too long. I mean, I've spoken to Dawn Astle on many occasions. We speak regularly about this, and just look at the way that her family was treated. It was denied. It was pushed back. It was, pretended it wasn't happening, that dementia happens to anybody, so there can't be a link here. Finally that's changing. The research is coming in and actually recognition is coming in. We need now to make sure that this incredibly wealthy sport looks after people who have suffered through no fault of their own and potentially have sustained lifelong dementia and degenerative diseases as a result of playing the sport they loved. They need help, and they need help now.
They absolutely do. Luke Griggs, as always, a great pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much for coming on.
Pleasure.